Tuesday, 12th May 2026 from 10 hours until business is concluded on each day, as well as consider more than one stage of a bill in a single sitting until the House adjourns. Sinidia, and to be with you this afternoon, my name is Tazapiri, and of course I'm not alone. I am joined by Joe Muyunda Akatama. We will run you through the business that has been considered from the time business commenced this morning.
Afternoon. Thank you so much, Taza. So when business commenced at 10 hours today, Madam Speaker did make an announcement in which she recognized the presence in the public gallery of teachers from Lake Road PTA School, and Madam Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, did welcome the visitors to the National Assembly.
Yes, indeed, and thereafter the House did consider 4 questions for oral answer, understanding Order 80. These are questions of ordinary nature.
Yes, indeed, as after consideration of those questions under ordinary nature, understanding Order 80, the House did consider a motion which was moved by Mr. Sande Chanda Kanchibia, Member of Parliament, where he was urging the House to adopt the report over the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the presidential appointment of Mr. Justice Charles Farai Mchenga, State Counsel, led Justice Abba Patel SC, State Counsel, led Justice Gertrude Chawatama and Mr. Butler Stali to serve as judges over the Supreme Court, led Justice Pix Yangailo, Mr. Justice Vincent Siloka, Ms. Gertrude Imbwaye to serve as judges over the Constitutional Court, Mr. Justice Charles Zulu to serve as Deputy President of the Court of Appeal, led Justice Sharon Kundanewa, led Justice Irene Zekombewe, led Justice Bridget Chilombo Maka, led Justice Ruth Chivabuka, led Justice Concepta Chinyamazulu, and led Justice Susan Wenjelan to serve as judges over the Court of Appeal for the 5th session over the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 6th May 2026. And this motion was seconded by Kavwe Central Member of Parliament, Ms. Chris Zosta Halwindi.
Yes, indeed, and we must make mention that this motion was resolved, meaning the motion has been adopted. Thereafter, the House went on to consider orders of the day, and today's orders of the day actually 5 bills which are being considered at second reading stage. And at the time business was being suspended for a lunch break, the House was actually considering the Civil Aviation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2026.
Yes, still indeed to come, we do expect the House to consider the Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026, also to be considered at a second reading stage.
And we do expect the benefits of former presidents and former vice presidents bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2026, to be considered at second reading stage.
The other bill to be considered is the Pension Scheme Regulation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2026, also to be considered at a second reading stage.
And the last and 5th bill that we expect the House to consider today is the Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2026, at the second reading stage. So we do expect business of the House to resume at about 14:30 hours. Like we mentioned earlier, the House is currently on a lunch break, so we do expect business of the House to resume at 14:30 hours. And just now we do excite you to some pictures as members of Parliament get ready for business of the House to resume, and be reminded that the sitting of the House from morning was necessitated by the movement of a motion by Her Honor the Vice President last week, suspend standing orders. That standing orders 24, 1 and 2, 27, 34 and 123 of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024 be suspended to enable the House to sit from Monday 4th to Tuesday 12th May 2026 from 10 hours until business is concluded on each day, as well as consider more than one stage of a bill at a single sitting until the House adjourns. Sinidia.
You can follow the proceedings on DSTV channel number 272, GoTV channel 28, and of course at Topstar channel 05. Not forgetting our social, that's on Facebook, National Assembly of Zambia, and of course YouTube. You can follow the proceedings right there. Good afternoon.
transacted on the floor of the House. So once a quorum is constituted, we do expect business of the House to resume. And this afternoon, we expect the House to consider some bills at a second reading stage. And at the time business was being suspended for a lunch break, the House was considering the Civil Aviation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2026.
Still to come, we do expect the House to consider the Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4, 2026, and also the Benefits of Former Presidents and Former Vice Presidents Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2026, also to be considered at second reading stage.
Other bills include the Pension Scheme Regulation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2026, and the Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2026, to be considered at second reading stage. So we do expect business of the House to resume once a quorum is constituted.
Order. When business was suspended, the House was considering the second reading stage of the Civil Aviation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2026, and the acting chairperson of the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply was debating. May the honorable member continue.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, since I've just started debating, allow me to start all over again. Madam Speaker, your Committee on Transport, Works and Supply was tasked to consider the Civil Aviation Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026. Madam Speaker, in accordance with its mandate, understanding order, the Committee of Transport, Works and Supply considered the Civil Aviation Amendment Bill number 3 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to strengthen the existing Civil Aviation Act through targeted amendments aimed at enhancing aviation safety, improving regulatory oversight, and aligning the legal framework with emerging corporational demands within the aviation sector. Madam Speaker, following its interactions with stakeholders, the committee carefully examined the provisions of the bill, and while supporting its over intent, the committee made the following observations and recommendations. Firstly, Madam Speaker, the committee observes that although Clause 8A places a mandatory obligation on pilots to adhere to designated air routes and comply with instructions issued by the competent authority, the bill does not provide for penalties or reinforcement measures in case of non-compliance with the omission, creates a regulatory gap that may weaken enforcement and compromise aviation safety. In view of the foregoing, Madam Speaker, the committee recommends that the bill be amended to include clear and proportionate sanctions for pilots who fail to comply with designated air routes or lawful instructions in order to strengthen enforcement and promote adherence to aviation safety requirements. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the committee observed that while the bill provides a comprehensive list of documents required to be carried on board an aircraft, it does not specify penalties for failure to comply with this requirement. This lack of enforcement mechanism may result in inconsistent compliance and could undermine efforts to ensure airworthiness and passenger safety. Madam Speaker, in light of the above, the committee recommends that the bill be revised to include appropriate sanctions for failure to carry the prescribed documentation on board an aircraft, so as to ensure strict compliance and enhance aviation safety standards. Finally, Madam Speaker, the committee observed that the bill introduces several new obligations, including statistical reporting requirements, enhanced aviation security measures, and the creation of new operational roles such as general agents. While these measures are intended to strengthen the regulatory framework, the committee notes that institutions and operators may face resource constraints, technical capacity limitations, and increased administrative burdens. These challenges may adversely affect the effective and timely implementation of the proposed provisions. In this regard, Madam Speaker, the committee recommends that the executive and the relevant authority should put in place adequate capacity building measures, technical support, and resource allocation to facilitate the smooth implementation of the new requirements. Further, the committee urges the Civil Aviation Authority to consider a phased implementation approach where necessary in order to allow stakeholders sufficient time to comply. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the committee wishes to pay tribute to all stakeholders who appeared before it and provided valuable submissions during the consideration of the bill. The committee also extends its sincere appreciation to you, Madam Speaker, and to the Office of the Clerk for the guidance and support rendered throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I thank you and I beg to move.
Thank you. Any further debate?
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
There's an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Minister of Youth, Sport and Arts.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, as you may be aware, I rarely rise on points of order. But Madam Speaker, this is very compelling. Madam Speaker, and this is directed at the Vice President. Madam Speaker, at break, Madam Speaker, when we went for lunch, I saw female members of Parliament going to the VP's office, and I followed until I saw only female members of Parliament were entering into the VP's office. So, Madam Speaker, I think I've come also to realize that there was a secret birthday celebration at that particular office. At the exclusion of male members of Parliament, Madam Speaker, is the VP in order to hold a secret birthday party for Honorable Masewo, with the exclusion of all of us, Madam Speaker, as if we are not equal? I need a serious ruling, Madam Speaker, on that one.
Can you cite the breach, Honorable Minister?
Madam Speaker, it's procedural.
Well, all what I can say is that that activity has got nothing to do with the proceedings of this House. So, it's not admissible. Any further debate? I see none. The Honorable Minister of Transport, Works and Supply, wind up debate. Minister of Transport and Logistics, sorry. Wind up debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is clear that owing to the fact that there is nobody coming up on the general debate, it is very clear that this is a very, very well-intended bill that, Madam Speaker, your committee has done a very good job in terms of understanding what it is that we at the Ministry of Transport through the Civil Aviation are trying to achieve. Madam Speaker, just to say that we have taken note of the various concerns that the committee was able to highlight, and indeed the propositions that they've put up. Propositions, Madam Speaker, just to mention perhaps one on the inclusion of sanctions on pilots who fail to comply with designated air routes. Madam Speaker, just to say that, yes, indeed, these will be taken into consideration, and just to thank the committee for their overall support. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Civil Aviation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026, second reading.
Just a minute. The Honorable Minister of Transport and Logistics.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. The Honorable Minister of Transport and Logistics.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill entitled the Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026, be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, this bill is a critical and forward-looking piece of legislation aimed at strengthening the institutional capacity and regulatory effectiveness of the Civil Aviation Authority. As honorable members are aware, civil aviation is governed by a highly structured international system under the Chicago Convention administered by the International Civil Aviation Organization. As a responsible contracting state, Zambia must continuously align its legal and regulatory frameworks with evolving global standards and emerging security threats. Madam Speaker, the current legal framework, while robust at the time of enactment, requires strengthening to respond to modern and increasingly complex aviation security risks. This bill, therefore, seeks to address key gaps and ensure that our aviation oversight systems remain proactive, responsive, and internationally compliant. Allow me to highlight the key provisions of the bill. Firstly, the bill provides for a comprehensive definition of acts of unlawful interference. This is not merely a legal refinement, it is a necessary step to ensure that our laws capture emerging threats such as sabotage, cyber-related risks, attacks on aviation infrastructure, and the misuse of aircraft as weapons. Secondly, the bill strengthens the governance of the Civil Aviation Authority through the expansion of the board. This will enhance institutional capacity, improve decision-making, and ensure broader stakeholder representation, including the private sector. Further, Madam Speaker, this reform is not limited to the authority alone. Institutional capacity will also be strengthened across all relevant institutions in the aviation security ecosystem, including airport operators, security wings, immigration authorities, customs agencies, airlines, and other cooperating institutions. This is important because aviation security is a shared responsibility that requires strong coordination, technical competence, and continuous training across the entire sector. Thirdly, the bill empowers the authority to issue regulatory directives and security orders in response to immediate or emerging threats. Madam Speaker, aviation security risks evolve rapidly, and our response mechanisms must be equally swift and decisive. This provision ensures that Zambia is not reactive but proactive. Fourthly, the bill introduces
the Advanced Passenger Information System, commonly known as APIS. This is a modern security tool that allows for the early collection and analysis of passenger data. It will significantly enhance our ability to detect and prevent threats before they materialize, strengthen border security, and improve efficiency at our airports. Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity to clarify concerns that may arise regarding the protection and use of passenger information under the APIS framework. The government remains fully committed to the protection of personal data and privacy rights. All institutions and officers handling passenger information under this system shall be bound by the provisions of the Data Protection Act and all other applicable laws of Zambia. Therefore, the collection, storage, sharing, and use of passenger data will be undertaken strictly within the confines of the law, with appropriate safeguards, oversight mechanisms, and accountability measures in place. Accordingly, stakeholders and members of the public should not be unduly concerned, as passenger data will remain protected under the existing legal framework governing data privacy and security. Madam Speaker, the implications of this bill are far-reaching. It will strengthen aviation security oversight, enhance Zambia's compliance with ICAO standards and recommended best practices, improve national security, and elevate our standing in the global aviation community. Furthermore, a strong and credible aviation regulatory framework is a key enabler of increased air connectivity, tourism growth, and foreign direct investments. Madam Speaker, let me emphasize that failure to update our legislative framework exposes the country to the risk of significant security concerns during international audits. This would have serious consequences for our aviation sector, including reputational damage and potential restrictions on our airlines. This bill is therefore not optional, it is necessary. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I urge honourable members of this House to support this bill. It is a progressive reform that safeguards our skies, strengthens our institutions, protects passenger rights, and positions Zambia as a secure and competitive aviation hub. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Any further debate? The acting chairperson of the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply, the Honourable Member for Ron.
Madam Speaker, thank you once more. Madam Speaker, your Committee on Transport, Works and Supply was yet again tasked to consider the Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly number 4 of 2026. Madam Speaker, this bill seeks to revise the composition of the Board of the Civil Aviation Authority, enhance civil aviation security, provide for the establishment of an advanced passenger information system, and provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, from the outset, allow me to state that all stakeholders who appeared before the committee supported the bill, following interactions with various stakeholders. The committee, however, Madam Speaker, has raised concerns upon which it has made the following observations and recommendations. Firstly, the committee observed that although the bill provides for the collection and use of passenger data, it does not expressly align with or cross-reference the Data Protection Act number 3 of 2021. As a result, key safeguards relating to data retention periods, independent oversights, and available remedies for data subjects are not clearly articulated. This omission may create uncertainty regarding the protection, storage, and lawful use of personal data. In this regard, the committee recommends that the bill should be revised to expressly incorporate and align with the provisions of the Data Protection Act number 3 of 2021. In particular, the bill should clearly provide for data retention limits, oversight mechanisms, and accessible remedies for affected individuals to ensure adequate protection of passenger information. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the committee notes that the effective implementation of the Advanced Passenger Information System and Passenger Name Record System will require substantial technical expertise, strong interagency coordination, and sustained financial resources. However, the bill does not adequately address these critical implementation requirements, which may hinder operational effectiveness. In view of this, the committee, Madam Speaker, recommends that the executive should develop and support a clear implementation framework that outlines capacity building measures, institutional roles, and sustainable funding arrangements. This will ensure the efficient and effective operationalization of the system envisaged under the bill. Finally, Madam Speaker, the committee notes that under Clause 5, the amendment of Section 14 of the Principal Act introduces greater flexibility by removing the previous restrictions on the Director General's power to grant exemptions, while such flexibility may be useful where the public interest requires regulatory responsiveness. The amendment also poses risk of arbitrary decision-making, inconsistency, and reduced transparency, if not accompanied by clear safeguards. In view of the foregoing, the committee recommends that the bill includes clear procedural safeguards and limitations governing the exercise of the exemption power, including defined criteria, in order to ensure accountability, transparency, and consistency. Madam Speaker, while the committee supports the overall objectives of the bill, the proposed amendments are necessary to ensure that the framework is legally robust, operationally effective, and aligned with existing national laws and good governance principles. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the committee wishes to pay tribute to all stakeholders who appeared before it, and indeed your office for supporting the committee. Madam Speaker, I thank you and I beg to move.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Katombola.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mine is a point of order, Madam Speaker.
What's your point of order?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The point of order is directed at Honourable Mundobile, Member of Parliament, Madam Speaker, from Porokoso. Madam Speaker, the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act stipulates the privileges that members enjoy in this House. This member, Madam Speaker, has been absent from the House, and this is in accordance with Standing Order 223 of our standing orders, Madam Speaker. Failure to attend a session, Madam Speaker. Can I be protected, Madam Speaker?
Order, honourable members, order. It's been given the floor. Yes. Order. The honourable member for Lunte. You may continue, the honourable member for...
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise on a very serious point of order, Madam Speaker, on privileges of a member. Honourable Mundubile has not been in the House and has been absent for more than 4 consecutive sessions of the National Assembly without the permission of the Government Chief Whip or the Speaker. The point of order...
The honourable member for Shiwangando, please, let's observe order of the House. Order, honourable member. The honourable member for Shiwangando, please leave us. Let him finish this point of order.
Kabiyesi.
Don't play with the presiding office.
Madam Speaker, is Honorable Mundubile, Member of Parliament from Porokoso, in order to remain absent from the business of this House and yet draw a government salary, Madam Speaker? I seek a serious ruling on that particular point. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I'll reserve the ruling in order for me to start the matter and come back to you at a later date to make the ruling.
Yes, 17 hours.
We may continue. Any further debate? I see none. The Honorable Minister of Transport and Logistics wind up debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, simply allow me to once again thank the acting chairperson of your committee on Transport, Works and Supply, and indeed through him to the rest of the committee for a stellar job that they have done in terms of appreciating this particular bill. It is very clear, Madam Speaker, that in his closing remarks, you can see that he has unequivocally supported this particular bill. Safe to say that I did mention in my, remarks as minister regarding this particular bill that the government, through my ministry, has taken all the necessary precautions to ensure that your concerns regarding data retention and, passenger rights to privacy is protected will be something that will be strictly adhered to, and that what the honourable member may be seeking would be further and better particulars, which indeed this bill has already taken care of. Madam Speaker, I would like to thank you and I beg to move.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that the bill be read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Benefits of Former Presidents and Former Vice Presidents Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2026, second reading.
Her Honor the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? Her Honor the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I am honored to present this statement in support of the Benefits of Former Presidents and Vice Presidents Bill 2026. The benefits for the former president are provided for in the Benefits of Former Presidents Act, Chapter 15 of the Laws of Zambia. Under this act, the retirement benefits for former presidents of the Republic of Zambia are clearly stipulated. Prior to the enactment of this act, former presidents received no pension or any other financial assistance from the state. The act was therefore passed to provide retirement benefits to former presidents in order to restore and maintain the dignity of the office of the president. This provision is in tandem with an established international convention in jurisdictions such as Zimbabwe, Uganda, India, the United States of America, and United Kingdom that were considered. Currently, the legal framework under the Benefits of Former Presidents Act, Cap 15, only provides for retirement benefits for former presidents and does not provide for the retirement benefits for former vice presidents of the Republic. Madam Speaker, the office of the Vice President under the current constitutional arrangement is the second highest office in the land, and therefore, the absence of a legal framework on the benefits of former vice presidents has resulted in former vice presidents being exposed to indignity on vacating office. In addition, constitutional reforms introduced under Article 110 of the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Act Number 2 of 2016, which provide for the election of the vice president as a running mate to the president, have altered the constitutional and political character of the office. In this regard, the lack of retirement benefits for the office of Vice President constitutes both a legal and policy gap that requires consideration. Further, the existing Act provides retirement benefits that are not aligned with the existing economic climate of the country. Madam Speaker, it is noteworthy that the benefits of Former Presidents Act, Cap 15 of the laws of Zambia, does not pronounce itself on the benefits of former vice president. It should also be noted that currently there is no law other than providing for the retirement benefits for former vice presidents and prime minister. Therefore, there is need to repeal and replace the benefits of Former Presidents Act so as to provide for the retirement benefits of former vice presidents and align the retirement benefits with the current economic climate. Madam Speaker, the bill, once enacted, will ensure that former presidents and former vice presidents of the Republic are compensated well for their service to the nation and will maintain the dignity of the office of President and Vice President and provide ongoing security and protection to the former office bearers. I would like, therefore, to urge all members to support the benefits of former presidents and Vice Presidents Bill 2026, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2026. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. Any further debate? The acting chairperson of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, the Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 206M and 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024, the Committee on Cabinet Affairs was tasked to consider the benefits of former presidents and former vice presidents, Bill number 5 of 2026.
Sorry, order. There is an indication for a point of order before you go further into your debate. The Honorable Member for Pemba, what is your point of order?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The point of order is on the senior member of this House, the Honorable Member, Honorable Kampiongo. 213, the conduct of a member. Madam Speaker, you just told the member to leave the House, and the member is back. Madam Speaker, is the member in order to remain in the House after you have told him to leave the House, defying your order? Your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
My ruling is that quite all right. I had instructed the Honorable Member for Shiwangandu to leave the House. However, we did not I did not mention to say he should not come back. He was told to leave the House, and issues of the quorum as well. We may continue. The Honorable Member for Mwandi, please continue.
Madam Speaker, because of the distraction, I'll restart again.
Yes, please start.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 206M and 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024, the Committee on Cabinet Affairs was tasked to consider the benefits of former presidents and former vice presidents, Bill number 5 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the bill before the House seeks to repeal and replace the benefits of former presidents, Act of 1993, and to establish a unified and comprehensive legal framework governing the retirement benefits
All
of
the
both.
honorable members, we want to listen to the debate by the chairperson.
This is a very important bill, Madam Speaker.
Yes, it
So
is
therefore,
very
honorable members
important. You
should pay
may
attention.
continue, honorable member.
Madam Speaker, the bill therefore seeks to repeal and replace the benefits of former presidents, Act of 1993, and to establish a unified and comprehensive legal framework governing the retirement benefits of both former presidents and former vice presidents of the Republic. Crucially, the bill proposes to charge these benefits on a consolidated fund. Madam Speaker, while the committee acknowledges that this bill represents a progressive and necessary reform aimed at modernizing the governance of former executive office holders, it also raises fundamental questions regarding to constitutional freedoms, fiscal sustainability, and the safeguarding of public assets. Madam Speaker, the committee observes that the definition of active politics as currently framed is overly broad and susceptible to expansive interpretations. In its present form, it risks encroaching upon constitutional rights to freedom of association by potentially restricting even legitimate and non-partisan civic engagement. The committee therefore strongly recommends that this definition be refined and narrowly tailored to apply strictly to participation in partisan electoral politics or the holding of public office. Madam Speaker, further, the committee finds the provision for permanent forfeiture of benefits upon engagement in active politics to be unduly punitive and inconsistent with the principle that retirement benefits constitute an accrued right. Madam Speaker, in this regard, the committee recommends a more balanced approach, one that provides for the suspension of benefits only for the duration in which a former office holder is actively serving in a political or public office, with full reinstatement thereafter. Madam Speaker, the committee also notes with concern the absence of statutory definitions for the terms spouse and marriage. This omission creates futile grounds for ambiguity, dispute, and potential inequality in the administration of survivor benefits. The committee therefore recommends the inclusion of clear and precise definitions within the bill to ensure legal certainty and fairness. In relation to housing provisions, Madam Speaker, the committee expresses serious reservations regarding the outright transfer of high-value properties into private ownership. Such an approach is not only fiscal and unsustainable, but also risks gradual erosion of strategic national assets. The committee therefore recommends the incorporation of a reservoir clause to ensure that such properties remain vested in the state and revert to public upon the demise of the beneficiary or surviving spouse. Madam Speaker, the committee further observes that the bill creates differentiated categories of former vice presidents based on tenure. This distinction introduces an element of inequality that is neither justified or desirable in a framework intended to promote fairness and uniformity. The committee therefore recommends that the provisions be harmonized to extend equitable benefits to all surviving former vice presidents. Madam Speaker, additionally, the committee notes that the delegation of funeral benefits to subsidiary legislation creates a legislative vacuum that may give rise to uncertainty and inconsistency. Given the national importance and sensitivity of the state funerals, the committee recommends that these provisions be expressly provided for within the principal legislation through a dedicated schedule clearly outlining state obligations, honors, and the role of the family. Madam Speaker, the committee is firmly of the view that while this bill seeks to preserve the dignity and welfare of former executive leaders, it must equally uphold the principles of constitutionalism, physical prudence, and reasonable stewardship of public resources. These objectives are not mutually exclusive. They are complementary and must be pursued in tandem. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, the committee supports the bill, subject to the adoption of the recommendation contained in its report. These amendments are essential to strengthening the bill, enhancing public confidence, and ensuring that the framework is established is equitable, sustainable, and constitutionally sound. With that being said, Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Chirubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to start by acknowledging that the bill has taken care of the creating more of the barrage of what may be called former vice presidents because of the constitutional requirement in Article 110, unless we are talking about those that have left after 2016, and though the bill starts from 1964. I wanted just to indicate that. Madam Speaker, when we are talking about benefits, benefits are an entitlement. And as they are an entitlement, Madam Speaker, we know that these are supposed to be given, and in this case, after service. And I think there is no much compromise that we are supposed to do as a nation. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I know that I want to overlook, though there is a temptation not to overlook, what would have possibly motivated this particular bill, which I wouldn't want to venture in. Madam Speaker, all the presidents in Zambia, from Dr. Kaunda to date, if you check the facts, is that they have re-entered politics. That is an establishment. They have re-entered politics. Dr. Kaunda re-entered politics. Dr. Chiruba did the same. You know, I'm talking about former presidents, not those who passed on before. If you check the records, all of them re-entered politics. And the conditionalities surrounding the former president not to get the benefits which they have worked for, I think if we can do a comparative arrangement with countries like South Africa, countries like Malawi, countries like Ghana, they have already put in these safety valves where even the former vice president is catered for. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I do acknowledge that this is not going to apply retrospectively. But even then, it is not a secret that some of these former vice presidents are benefiting. Currently, some of them, we even go to their homes and we see that, of course, the state is taking care of their security and other factors. How I wish that this law would have come before they started benefiting. I want to put that on record. And we shouldn't have brought this law like we are trying to qualify what is already going on. I think that is a misnomer. Madam Speaker, when we look at the bill, to me, and from where I stand, it has fumbled a bit. I don't know if that's even the right term. When it comes to creating a balance between family law and other things. Why I say so is that you find that whereas it has defined, it has borrowed from the Child Code Act, the definition of a child, or a child of the family. This bill and any other law has not defined, linking to it, who a spouse is. Of course, it has made attempts in there about remarrying and something like that and so forth. But also, we need also to know that Africans and Zambians in particular can be polygamous, not just monogamous. How do we treat such? What if a vice president or a former vice president, and it's not always that vice presidents would be females who would venture into polyandry possibly, but we are also supposed to accommodate that vice presidents would be males too, who may venture into polygamous arrangements. And that has not been taken care of. Same to the former vice presidents. When we look at the application of the law, of course, it has not been a bit sensitive to Article 98, which talks about not prosecuting the president and all those factors. I know that it has attended to one component where the president is actually convicted. But where such process starts, which also involves this House, that has not been taken care of. Madam Speaker, we also want to venture into what is prescribed in 109, Article 109, which I may not go one by one. I want to acknowledge that as we talk about these benefits, I have also in mind what the first schedule in the bill has provided, which is for the president, which I think many of the people may not pay attention to. I also want to acknowledge what the second schedule for the vice president has provided in the bill as part of the benefits. But they are not further qualified inside the bill to accommodate, because there are vehicles, there are other things and the like. It has only talked much about the 80% formula. Of course, the parent bill, where we are getting this, had lined up about 12 things. And where this bill has also tried to attempt is the death of both the vice president and former president, which to me somehow is a score, because we have a controversy even in the nation. Madam Speaker, when we look at these other parameters they are read, I do realize that Article 110 has taken care of where the president used to appoint and disappoint vice presidents, meaning that this particular safety valve now is subject to adult suffrage, where the vice president and the president are subject to issues of the vote, meaning there is security of tenure in that particular office, which is 5 years. They are short of 5 years, meaning the backlog of those that we are going to pay may not be so much bounced, and may not be so much, where we are, even when we entertained the 1964, the 2016 Paris may not be we may not have a queue. The law has taken care of that particular measure. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, let us not venture in making laws that fit into the current scenario. We have seen that the laws that fit into current scenarios have failed us before. And it is my prayer, and the prayer of the people of Chilubi, that the inclusion of the 2016, the after 2016, on the vice presidents may not take care of what is happening currently, which may defeat the retrospective approach on the law. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Nkana.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Let me state from the onset that I do not support this proposition. I would have loved to support this proposed amendment, save for the so many gray areas, so many vague clauses that will bring so much confusion if this amendment is allowed to pass. Let's start with understanding what we're trying to do. There already exists a law called the Benefits of the Former President Act of, I think, 1993. What this seeks to do is to amend that act to now make it read the Benefits of the Former President and Former Vice President Act of 2026. Now, Madam Speaker, the reason why it was thought that we should be giving benefits to a president are very clear. When a man serves at that high level, you need to give him status. You need to give him recognition. You don't need to subject him to vulnerability, because a former president remains a very integral part of a country. Former presidents are still custodians of state secrets. If you allow them to fall into destitution, chances are that they may fall prey to manipulation that may later lead them to, unleashing these state secrets. That is why those that came before us thought of honoring these men who have saved this country by not allowing them to become destitute. What this law, and Madam Speaker, when we enact a law or we are attempting to amend the law, the question would be, what mischief are we trying to cure? What lacuna are we trying to close up? I think this is what we must focus on. What are we trying to close up? Madam Speaker, the reason why I have not supported this would have been a very perfect opportunity for us to address a number of issues that surrounds former presidents. As an example today, we are faced with a very daunting task today, having failed to bury a former president for almost 1 year now. This would have been a perfect time to now create or couch a law that addresses all these problems that have arisen. The law that has been couched now still leaves it so vague, because they are now suggesting it will be up to what will be prescribed. This law must be defined to now state what should happen to a president that dies. How should we bury him? What should he be entitled to? This is an opportunity we have missed. Madam Speaker, we have also witnessed, because I will ask you, there's so much vagueness in the clauses being proposed. As an example, part of the entitlements of both the former president and the vice president, particularly those vice presidents that will serve from 2016. First of all, I'm confused there, Madam Speaker, because this law is suggesting, this amendment is suggesting only those vice presidents that would have served from 2016 will be entitled to a house. Meanwhile, this same law is suggesting the former vice president will not receive benefits in retrospective. 2016, from this act today, is retrospective. Why are we including, therefore, a vice president that would have served behind this law if we are suggesting within the same law that the former vice president will not receive benefits in retrospective? Secondly, Madam Speaker, when you now say a former vice president will be entitled to a house, but then when a former vice president dies and the surviving spouse remarries, then they are not entitled to those benefits. What happens to the spouse of the vice president who would have already taken possession of a house entitled to them by the state, and then the former vice president dies? Is the state going to now move them out of the house? How would that society be, Madam Speaker, where we now go and drag the family of the former vice president who has died because the spouse has remarried? Madam Speaker, that is why I am saying there's too much vagueness. This is what I would have loved, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the timing of this proposal is completely wrong. We are now at a time when this country is barely surviving. Our resource envelope is so thin, we are failing to attend to critical needs. Madam Speaker, if every former vice president, former vice president and president is going to be entitled to that mansion we are talking about and those benefits, how will the state manage? Because, Madam Speaker, we are not masters of people's destinies. Today, a vice president can die, we replace with another one, tomorrow they may die. How many houses? Because, Madam Speaker, these are not simple houses we are talking about. These are mansions that are built
Order, the Honorable Member Fonkana, there is an indication for a point of order.
She just moved the motion. She just moved.
The Honorable Member Fonkana, anybody can stand up and indicate for a point of order.
Madam Speaker, as you have observed, I rarely stand on point of orders.
Yeah.
Madam Speaker, when bills are referred to this House and they are sent to your committees and reports are done, it is very, very important for members of Parliament not only to read the proposed amendments, but to also read your committee's reports, of which Parliament spends a lot of time and a lot of resources to call witnesses through, to come and sit and look at the bills that are sent to your committees. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Fonkana, who is on the floor of the House right now, I can tell you, Madam Speaker, 100%, he has not read the report of your committee and the recommendations contained into and the proposed amendments. Madam Speaker, why I say so is because what the Honorable Member of Nkana is debating are things that have been made recommendations by your committee in the report. So, Madam Speaker, now listen, is it in order to come and debate and mislead without reading the report of your committee? Madam Speaker, is that member in order to come and report, to come and read? Because, for example, Madam Speaker, I don't want to go further. The things that is proposing are things that have been proposed in, like, for example, the houses. They have been proposed in the report. Madam Speaker, is it in order to come and debate without looking at the report of the committee? Madam Speaker, I submit. He hasn't read the report. Therefore, it's misleading. I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Mandi, you've debated the point of order. But Honorable Members, please, let's just stick to the report. It's so brief, just 2 pages or 3. When we are giving examples, let us marry them with the content of the report. Let us be focused and let us be factual. And please, if we haven't read, there's no need to indicate to debate. If we've read, we are free to do so. So the Honorable Member for Nkana, try to be focused, taking into consideration the report. You may proceed.
Madam Speaker.
You may proceed.
5 years I've sat here. We are discussing a proposed amendment of the bill. Whether I read the report or I did not read, we are discussing the bill.
The Honorable Member for Nkana, can you debate?
I'm proceeding, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, benefits are not a privilege or they are not at the mercy of anybody. Benefits, pension or anything are an entitlement to somebody based on the fact that they've served. They must never be associated with things like somebody being in active politics or otherwise. I am against this proposed amendment because the proposal in the law and what is also being maintained in the bill suggesting that you can only give benefits to a former leader when they are not active in politics have raised too much trouble. This was an opportunity for us to deal away with this because there's no correlation between being in politics actively and also having saved. Benefits are as a reason of having saved. Madam Speaker, let me highlight to you one of the confusion. If you go to the bill, in Part 7, they are talking of when a former president is not entitled to benefits. Namely, number B, that when he engages in active politics. When you go to 7.2, they are saying despite subsection 1, the retirement benefit of a former president and former vice president referred to under this act shall, in the case of B, paragraph B, not be payable if the former president or vice president ceases to be engaged in active politics. Meaning that even when they come back out of active politics. This proposed amendment is suggesting they will also not be entitled. The current practice is that if a former president engages in active politics, they will not be paid. If they get out of active politics, they have to be paid. This law now is proposing that even when they come out of active politics, they will not be paid. That is why, Madam Speaker, there's so much vagueness. This is the reason, the result of rushing bills. I'm not supporting this because this is rushed. It has so vague clauses and it will be subject to serious misinterpretation and confusion. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make a few comments on this very important bill. And I want to state, Madam Speaker, from the onset that on this bill, I will slightly differ with my young brother today because I certainly support the bill. As I support the bill, I'll make comments on the bill. Honorable members, we must understand that when we amended the Constitution in 2016, it aligned the office of the Vice President with the presidency. Everything about the presidency, qualification, disqualification, is the same as the Vice President. And so what I see this bill trying to do is to align that. And I think I did state at one point that we could have dealt with this bill at the time the Constitution was enacted. What I agree with the committee, or what I disagree with the committee, is their recommendation on 6.4, where the committee observes that clause 5, as currently drafted, creates an equal classes of former vice presidents. The committee is of a view that all former leaders in this office performed similar executive functions and should be treated equitably. It therefore recommends that the scope of clause 5 be expanded to cover all surviving former vice presidents and prime ministers. This is not tenable, Madam Speaker. And like I've stated, we are aligning this office of the vice president to the presidency, because in the past, all these former vice presidents were just like cabinet ministers. That's why others served 3 months, fired, another one hired. And that's how it was. And they were serving at the behest of the president. But now this is constitutional. So meaning the same privileges that the president must be entitled to, former presidents, should be the same as the vice president. Mind you, this is now automatic. Should anything happen to the presidency, the vice president automatically, we don't even need to go to elections, becomes president. So these changes must be aligned, and we just have to support. But again, like I've said, those who served previously before the 2016 constitution, and I must commend one public figure who appeared before the committee. I was at the privilege to listen to former Vice President Enoch Kavidele, who made presentations, and I expected that he was going to speak about their interests as former presidents of that time. But he was very clear also, and he was cognizant of the fact that those who served then are different from the ones that are serving from 2016. So these changes can only be applicable, and it's tenable to align them with the vice presidents that have been serving from 2016 going forward. So it's important, Madam Speaker, that this recommendation from the committee was misplaced in the way they have recommended, because clause 5, as it sits, is well couched in line with the Republican Constitution. Madam Speaker, the other issue we must not skit around is the proposed clause 8. Madam Speaker, this clause 8 is talking about benefits of former president and vice president. Clause 8 sub clause 1 is talking about funeral benefits. And then clause 2 is saying we must leave these matters to subsidiary registration. Your Honor, the Vice President, where I come from, we say, Ushlanda Pamfwa Nimukamwenso. We must stop shying away from dealing with these matters. We should have dealt with these matters in the Act, because right now we should have been learning lessons from what is obtaining. So to try and think that to pass the buck to someone to come and prescribe how we deal with funerals of the former vice president and vice president is passing the buck, abdicating our responsibilities as legislators. It's not too late, Your Honor, the Vice President. It's not too late that we have seen what you have done to the schedules. It's not too late to deal with this aspect in the law. Because no matter what we do, death is there. We have got only 2 days. You were born, you served, then death comes. So to try and leave this to prescription, who is going to have the responsibility to do that? We as lawmakers here must take advantage of what we have gone through to deal with these aspects, making sure that the interests of the families of those former constitutional office bearers are also taken into account. Then we can deal, we can avoid getting back into this situation where we are as a nation hitting headlines for wrong reasons of not just making sure that the 60th Republican president is in charge. So for me, this is a progressive amendment, but those who served before 2016 were just like ordinary, like us former cabinet ministers. And so to try and think that you can equate them to the vice presidents of after 2016 is wrong. So committee, you don't need to make such a proposal. The last matter, Madam Speaker, is that sustainability. Sustainability is a matter that we can't ignore, because even as we speak, you'll be surprised that the house of the second Republican president is incomplete. Of course, again, because we don't deal with certain matters, we ignore a spouse, divorced spouse, we end up with the structures standing incomplete after resources have been spent. These are matters we should be dealing with. We know the laws that provide for marriage and divorces. Let's deal with them. It's not, Madam Speaker, we are providing for these things, and then if it can't be implemented, we are just wasting time. So it's important that we look at where we are coming from. How many houses have we built for the former president? What is the backlog? Now that's when you start taking things into the realistic context, and the issue of sustainability kicks in. So make sure that we provide only those incentives that the state can manage. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I wish to end my debate by saying I support the bill, but let's take realistic measures to make sure that what we put in the bill is implementable. I thank you.
Thank you. The last member, the Honorable Member for Lunte.
Madam Speaker, I want a man or a woman who saves our nation to be okay. That is what I want. This is why, Madam Speaker, I want a law which provides for that. If a law is inadequate, in the case of the act that is under amendment, you need to refine it. Madam Speaker, the committee, in considering the bill, admonishes, if you go to the conclusion, after supporting the amendment, then they say, however, the committee underscores that for this law to be truly durable and equitable, it must address the highlighted gaps concerning fiscal sustainability, constitutional rights, and evolving social realities. Madam Speaker, the amendment, clause 5, is saying a former vice president shall be entitled to the following benefits. A tax-free salary at the rate of 80% of the emoluments of the incumbent vice president. Madam Speaker, what the former vice president will be paid is a salary. It will be 80% and it will be tax-free. At 80% of what? Of the emoluments of the incumbent vice president. What are emoluments, Madam Speaker? Emoluments, as I have come to understand them, are entitlements that come from employment or a position. Emoluments include their salary, they include allowances, they include perks, they include gratuities, they include emoluments are benefits that accrue to a person for holding a particular position. Even though the departed vice president will be paid the salary, the basis, madam, are emoluments of the existing person in that position. This is not prudent. This is totally imprudent. And in fact, when you look at the financial situation of our nation, the Minister of Finance is here in this house. He knows that this isn't sustainable. Do you now wonder why the committee is saying there are issues of sustainability? Nomenclature. This is deliberate nomenclature. Don't think that they made a mistake. No, they did not make a mistake. They knew what they were saying. They knew what they wanted to put across. Madam Speaker, these same emoluments will go to the president who has left office. They even add a spouse and a child. Madam Speaker, why? Nishi.
Use the official language.
Madam, it's as though you are talking too much about emoluments. No, I want them to be okay. But consider that you are talking about taxpayers' money. Consider that you are talking about these same people who you are taxing all over the place, from their production to their earnings to their consumption. It's unfair, Madam Speaker. It's grossly unfair. But provide something for the former president. It's important. Provide something for the former vice president. It's very important. But not these outrageous, description. This is outrageous.
Question.
Madam Speaker, the benefits haven't ended with 80% of the emoluments of the sitting vice president or president. They go ahead within a period not exceeding 6 months from the date of vacating office, one driver and one motor vehicle. Okay, yes, I love that. But also free maintenance, but also free fuel. But what about the schedule? What is it telling you, madam? It is telling you, schedule 2, referring to the vice president, and schedule 1 is talking about the president. It will tell you now about diplomatic passport, medical insurance, foreign travels, local travels, 24-hour security. Madam Speaker, all of these are costs to be added to the 80%.
Yes.
It is imprudent to have that imagination. Madam Speaker, these bills, in fact, I don't know how much respect the government has given to this report. I am asking so because
the honourable member for Lunte, please just give us your views, just like the way you've done.
These are
Don't
views.
think on behalf of the government.
No, these
I
are my
think
views.
the vice president is going to respond. Yes.
Yes. So I am saying, I don't know how much respect the government has given to this report, because this report is saying, madam, this report is saying, except for fiscal sustainability, constitutional rights and evolving social realities. So if there is respect for this, I expect amendments to already be here, because we only have 4 days. There are no amendments that have been promulgated to reflect the reports, declarations, madam. This is what I am saying, and the executive is here, they will respond. Madam Speaker, let's be clear. Let's be very clear. Who doesn't want their president to be okay?
You.
No, of course not me. I've declared here that I want, but I want a prudent measure, because the people who are paying for this must also feel that their money is not just being wasted.
We'll just be helping you. Ask
Okay? Madam Speaker, let me end my debate by reflecting on what my other brother behind said regarding the prescription of the management of the death of the former president or vice president. Madam Speaker, this will be an act of parliament in case it goes through. But look at what they are saying on clause 8. They are saying the funeral of a former president or somebody who dies in office will be prescribed. But by who? Because the prescription, as we all know, has somebody who's going to do it. This law is not providing for who is going to prescribe. Madam Speaker, finally, I also want to say, the president and vice president who I want to be taken care of by the people is one who retires honorably. If you are impeached, you are not worthy. If, madam, you are involved in corruption and the people rise and say, get out, you are not worthy. But somebody who serves and retires honorably should be the president or vice president that should be honored by the Zambian people by taking care of them. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Information and Media.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity that I may add a word or two. Madam Speaker, what we are talking about is a very important motion on the floor of the House. And I would like to begin by commending His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema
for being so thoughtful of the former leaders of this country at the level of Vice President, that he has seen himself suffer and live a life as though they never served this country at such a high level. Madam Speaker, a former Vice President of this country should be had in contemplation by ourselves as to their welfare. Madam Speaker, it's a very important and touchy subject for me, who has been here now 15 years. And I see how former leaders, members of parliament, ministers, suffer after they've left office. Many members of parliament, Madam Speaker, once they are not adopted and they are not coming back to this house, the first thing they do is to sell the vehicle they had borrowed from parliament. That is the beginning of the journey into squalor and poverty, as if you were never a minister or a member of parliament. And as if you don't have a parliament that should be considerate to look at the effort and contribution you put into public service at the detriment of your personal well-being. This is serious. Next week, Madam Speaker, we will be adjourning sine die. Trust me, some of the members who are here, and I'm not debating ourselves, are not coming here. Some of the members who are here are not coming. Meet them 1 year later, or 5 months. Some of them want to run away from you when you meet in some of these public places. We have seen, I'm using this platform of a member of parliament or a minister, therefore, to give gravitas of the importance of a person who has served as vice president. Haven't we seen a former minister or former ministers, Madam Speaker, come to live at the mercy of Mr. Speaker, to come to the restaurant and eat on at the pleasure of Mr. Speaker or Madam Speaker? Is that what we want our leaders to be? And why is it that this is the only arm of government which does not want to support itself? Why is it that this is the only arm of government where for you to be elected, you spend personal resources, and for you to be looked into after you've left office, the same people who are within say no? Because this is service to who? These are the reasons why some leaders we've heard in the past say stealing is good so that you can look after yourself. Because there is no room to be taken care of. Madam Speaker, you know, for instance, judges, that they get 80% of the emoluments of a current judge, former judges. What is so special about them? In terms of the structure of governance, that we have 3 arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Don't we perform the same role of making government one government function? Why should the job that politicians do be relegated when it is the most risky, in fact? Why? We have to be serious about this issue. Today, as we speak, Madam Speaker, President Hakainde Hichilema is empathetic of what he has seen former vice presidents look like. How many do you even see in public spaces? But you have not less than 4 former vice presidents alive. Sometimes it is a condition of the economic situation. And why should we say no to looking after their welfare as if they'll live forever? This is a mitigating and ameliorating measure to ensure that we may change their circumstances in the meantime. There is nothing to talk about wasting taxpayers' money. No. Those people saved at the highest level. I therefore would like to respond specifically to 3 issues. Number 1, I heard the Member of Parliament from Ghana say what is the mischief we are trying to address. The mischief we are trying to address is that in terms of the the benefits of former President's Act, Cap 13 of the laws of Zambia, which we are amending, the Vice President was not taken care of, as though they did not serve at that high level. That is a mischief. It's unfortunate that he has disappeared because, anyway, that's what they do. Come here, talk, and you don't want to hear responses. So that is a mischief, because that is a mischief, Madam Speaker, which this particular law seeks to address. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I have heard from my brother, Honorable Kampyongo, and I want to thank him for his debate. He is usually very honest. No, usually. Remember, usually doesn't mean he does always. Usually. He has debated well, except for me to place on record his characterization that former presidents who were not running mates were mere vice presidents because they were maybe ministers or MPs. No. Let us look at the role of function they performed. That once they were appointed as vice president, they were removed from the realm of being a member of parliament or a minister. They became vice president and performed exactly the functions that the current vice presidents who have come under running mate perform. So we are looking at the function performed and not necessarily how they enter. And that is the reason why law should be flexible to take care of these kind of things, because it was unforeseeable at the time of promulgation of the Benefits Act Cap 13 that a vice president would need to be taken care of in the manner now being proposed. So what the former vice presidents did, who were not running mates, is the same that the current is doing. So it is important to appreciate, and you also know that when you're a vice president, you leave all what normally is yours personally to devote your life into public service. Why should it hurt anybody to remunerate and appreciate such kind of a person? I think that the onus is on us, and posterity is going to appreciate us. Colleagues, we only have 4 former vice presidents. What is wrong about appreciating them? If freedom fighters who fought for independence in 1964 are still asking for appreciation, what about former vice president? Madam Speaker, this is a serious matter. I urge the House to support the motion in full. I thank you.
Thank you. Her Honor, the Vice President, wind up debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to wind up debate. And I think I will just wind up debate, because basically there are a lot of suggestions that have come on the floor of the House. Some, of course, not easy to understand, but some of them have brought some kind of clarity. The issues that have come on the floor, for example, I pick this repeatedly from members that have debated, whom I must thank, the Honorable Member for Chilubi, Shiwangandu, Nkana, and the Honorable Minister, and Lunte. These are the members that have debated. I think they are asking for a clearer definition of active politics. That has been asked, even in the report from the chairperson. Thank you for that wonderful report. And what I can say is we have listened to this kind of, request from the floor of the House. The chair talked of the definition being broad and need to see whether you are speaking to holding office or seeking elective office. We will look at that. That speaks also to going back into politics, is what is going back into politics. We'll look at that. The issues of multiple, I'm using my own words, multiple spouses. Somebody even talked of a female vice president. I think that was Chilubi, who would also get involved in multiple spouses. I think some of these things are they move on more to the family rather than the law itself. How do you handle that? because it talks of spouse. If the family knows who the spouse is, I don't think we should, in the law, start looking at how many wives did this person have, or is it how many husbands, according to Chilobi, did this woman have. So we have listened to that. On the issue of emoluments, I think the Honorable has dwelt quite a bit on that. I think it is a concern that can be looked at. I think the Honorable, sometimes when we debate, you bring what you want it to be like. The Honorable was talking of the meaning of emolument rather than salary, the difference between that. And that is its concern, that you want the Vice President to continuously get everything that is entitled to the Vice President throughout. I think that was his concern. We have listened. We will look at that and bring the meaning in the manner that it was meant to be in this space. It is, what are we curing? I think the Honorable Minister of Information has come out very, very clearly. We could have done an amendment, but if you look at this, we are repealing. It is repealing and replacing. If there was no issue to bring in the Vice President, this law could have probably been amended in the schedule. But we are bringing in a totally new concept that this law does not only capture the presidents, it also captures the Vice President, who indeed, as the Honorable Member debated, who didn't support. The only one I heard didn't support. I think Honorable Lunte was concerned. Honorable Mpundu did not support. But in not supporting, he brought out the issues, exactly saying the presidency is a very important office. And if you leave it, you leave a person out of office without being taken care of, can be subject to manipulation. And therefore, the entire nation is at stake at that moment. But after saying this, the Honorable Member didn't see the need for this. He didn't propose amendment. I think he went straight to say he did not support. Yes, there is a concern that we have not catered for issues like the death and burial of former presidents or vice presidents, but we have provided, I'm sure, in the law that this will be taken care of. I hear the concern that we cannot put such an important thing. I think Honorable Kampiongo spoke to that and others, that we don't leave that to subsidiary law. It is supposed to come through into this law. What I'll say about the law is indeed, no law is cast in concrete. We continue to improve all the time. So we hear some of these things that you have brought. Honorable Kampiongo was very clear in his thought or his submission that this law is catering from 2016. That is the way he came out. We listened. So basically, I'm not making commitments standing here. We have listened. I was just trying to repeat some of the things that have been said by the members. We do understand, but I think what is important is that these offices, the two offices, should retire honorably. I think everybody does agree to that. And therefore, this is the beginning of honor. If we can look after the president that vacates and the vice president that vacates the office, I think we have to do something, and that something is now. Let us work together. Thank you for those that have supported. Indeed, some of these things will be looked at. Thank you. I thank the chairperson and her committee for the recommendations that have made. Some of them, I must admit, not so easy, to really bring implementation, because the issue should come, there should be finality. When you start bringing in the issues in your committee, madam, of near relatives, what do you call them? You don't know where to end this issue. So we hear what you have contributed, and I'm grateful for the contribution. We will come back to this House with the amendments as we see fit. Not everything will be amended. Thank you.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Or the contrary say no. The question is resolved in the affirmative. The ayes have it. Let the bill be read a second time.
The benefits of former presidents and former vice presidents bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when? Her Honor the Vice President. Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam.
Thank you. Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Pension Scheme Regulation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2026, second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor of presenting the Pensions Scheme Regulation, Amendment Bill number 7 of 2026 to this August House for ratification. The object of the bill is to amend the Pensions Scheme Regulation Act so as to A, revise the composition of the Board of the Pensions and Insurance Authority, and B, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, this Pension Scheme Regulations Act oversees insurance, reinsurance, and intermediaries, and it is enforced by the Pensions and Insurance Authority, PIA. The Pensions and Insurance Authority, PIA, is responsible for regulating, supervising, and development of the Zambia's pensions and insurance industry to protect policyholders and scheme members. PIA achieves this through implementing risk-based supervision, licensing entities, and enforcing compliance with insurance and pension laws. The PIA also advises government on national assets. Madam Speaker, one of the major concerns observed was the limited participation of the private sector, civil society organizations, and other non-state actors in the affairs and the programs of the authority. To address this, the proposed amendment in Section 6.2 of the Principal Act seeks to introduce a requirement for the appointment of a private sector representative with expertise in pension fund administration, insurance, or actuarial matters. This change is expected to enhance the technical capacity and professionalism of the board. Furthermore, the inclusion of a technically qualified private sector expert is a positive development as it strengthens governance and supports evidence-based decision-making within the authority. This will ensure that all relevant sectors are well represented on the board. In conclusion, I wish to urge this August House to lend its full support to the enactment of the Pensions Scheme Regulation Amendment Bill of 2026 Its passage will strengthen governance, broaden stakeholder participation, and enhance service delivery in the pensions and insurance sector for the benefit of our nation. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters, the Honourable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, the committee is in support of the bill. This notwithstanding some stakeholders raised concerns on which the committee makes the following observations and recommendations. Madam Speaker, the committee observes that the composition of the board may expose pension schemes to undue influence or conflict of interest. In this regard, the committee recommends that the board members must meet strict integrity and ethical standards, and that measures must be put in place to insulate appointment processes from political and vested interests. Madam Speaker, with this regard, the conflict of interest and abuse of office, the committee observes that the board members and management may influence decisions for personal gain. In this regard, the committee recommends that the bill must explicitly criminalize conflict of interest in pension funds decision-making. The committee also recommends that the bill must provide for mandatory integrity clearance by the Anti-Corruption Commission for all board members and make them declare assets and liabilities upon appointment and periodically. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to thank you and all the stakeholders for the support rendered to the committee throughout these deliberations. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate?
Very clear.
The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning wind-up debate.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the House for their overwhelming support.
I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Pension Scheme Regulation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2026, second reading.
The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor of presenting the Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill number 10 of 2026 to the National Assembly of Zambia for ratification. The objects of the bill are: 1, to revise the composition of the Public-Private Partnership Council, and 2, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, this bill presents a targeted and strategic reform to the public-private partnership framework by revising the composition of the PPP Council. At its core, the amendment seeks to enhance the governance, technical depth, and the responsiveness of the PPP Council by increasing representation from the private sector. Public-private partnerships are inherently complex, requiring a delicate balance between public accountability and private sector efficiency. By maintaining 4 ministers with the relevant portfolios, the bill ensures stronger policy coherence and alignment with the national development priorities. Equally, the inclusion of 5 private sector experts with proven experience in PPPs strengthens the Council's technical competence and market awareness, both of which are critical for structuring bankable and sustainable projects. Madam Speaker, this amendment is timely as Zambia continues to scale up its infrastructure development efforts and mobilizing private capital through platforms such as PPPs. In this regard, strengthening institutional governance is not optional. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters, the Honourable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, the committee is in support of the bill. However, based on the concerns raised by stakeholders with regard to the increased private sector representation on the board, the committee observes that while the Principal Acts provides for conflict management, the increase of private sector representation on the board without corresponding enactment of general conflict rules appropriate to PPP decision-making poses a risk of capture. The committee therefore recommends that safeguards such as enhanced declarations, standing for projects linked firms, or additional ethical screening for appointees drawn from active market participation be introduced in the bill. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to thank you and all the stakeholders for the support rendered to the committee throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? Any further debate? I see none. The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning, wind-up debate.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank the House for the support.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Her Honor the Vice President, adjournment.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House now adjourns.
The question is that the House now adjourns. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House is now adjourned.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for still being with us on Parliament Television. The House has just adjourned, and we now take a look at business that has been considered from the time business commenced at about 10 hours in the morning. And when business commenced, Madam Speaker did make one announcement in which she recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Lake Road PTA School in Lusaka District. Madam Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly.
Yes, indeed, after those announcements, there was consideration of questions for oral answer understanding order 80, and question number 345 did come from Mr. Bright Nundwe, who is a Chawama constituency member of parliament. He did ask the Minister of Agriculture in three parts how many storage facilities for maize there were countrywide as of April 2026, province by province. So the Minister did state as follows: Central Province had 48, Copperbelt 33, Eastern 60, Vapula 9, Lusaka 80, Muchinga 22, Northwestern 12, Northern 25, Southern 67 rather, and Western Province 19. And in B, over the facilities, how many were ordered by government and the private sector. So the minister did say that 303 were ordered by government, while 72 were ordered by the private sector. And in answering part C of the question, which was whether the facilities will be able to accommodate the expected maize harvest from 2025 to 2026 season, the minister did say that yes, the combined storage capacity over 1.8 million metric tons will be able to accommodate the expected maize harvest. And the minister went on to say that answering part F, which was whether the government has any plans to construct additional storage facilities, the minister did answer in affirmative by saying that government has plans.
Yes, indeed, Joe. And we also had question 346, which was asked by Mr. Mulenga Fube, Chilubi Member of Parliament. His question was directed at the Minister of Transport and Logistics. He wanted to know in A, whether the maritime functions have been devolved to local authorities. The Minister did respond that maritime functions have been devolved to selected local authorities. And in B, if so, which local authority is responsible for managing the water transport vessels between Samfia and Chilubi district. The minister did respond that Zampost is in charge. And in C, what measures the government is taking to prevent the duplication of maritime functions. And the minister did say that government has been undertaking continuous capacity building to local authorities in the execution of devolved maritime functions. And he also stated that standard separating procedures have been developed and issued to guide effective separation and management of these functions.
They also went on to consider a motion which was moved by Mr. Sunday Chanda, Kanchivia constituency member of parliament, who moved a motion where he was urging the House to adopt the report over the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the presidential appointment of Mr. Justice Chalwe Farai Mchenga State Council, Late Justice Abba Patel State Council, Late Justice Gertrude Chawatama, and Mr. Butler Study to serve as judges of the Supreme Court, Late Justice Pixie Yangailo, Mr. Vincent Siloka, and Ms. Gertrude Imwai to serve as judges over the Constitutional Court, Mr. Justice Charles Zulu to serve as Deputy President over the Court of Appeal, Late Justice Sharon Kaundanewa, Late Justice Irene Kombewe, Late Justice Bridget Chilombo Maka, Late Justice Ruth Chivabuka, Late Justice Concepta Chinyamazulu, and Late Justice Susan Wanjelani to serve as judges of the Court of Appeal for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 6th May 2026. And this motion was seconded by Kabwe Member of Parliament, Ms. Grizosta Halwindi. The report was adopted.
And thereafter, today, the House has considered about 5 bills at second reading stage, and the bills will be considered at committee stage in due course. And the bills include the Civil Aviation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2026.
the Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026.
The benefits of former presidents and former vice presidents bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2026.
The Pensions Scheme Regulation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2026, as well as the Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2026.
Yes, indeed, and that concludes today's summary of what the House has considered. So, on behalf of Joe Akata, Mamayunde, and our sign language interpreters, and of course the entire production crew, we wish you a pleasant day. Keep watching Parliament Television.
Game, they will be bubbling about this one for weeks and months to come.
Wherever you are, whatever your reason, it's on SuperSport all season long. Reconnect to DSTV Compact and GoTV Super Plus today and get the best football on us.
Pace. There is no margin for error. So much here is familiar.